This is for African Americans and others who feel that they've been discriminated against because of their race. I'm Mark Stewart Greenstein, candidate for all of us, candidate for governor. There is an extra burden that I recognize, and it is not fair. And those who want to fight against it, you are heroic. How much you want to fight is a tough call because you take arrows in the process. I talked in the last video about how data may be more important than anecdotes in figuring out whether somebody is acting with racist intent. Let me give you data, a very seemingly effective survey that shows the problems for some African Americans. And as a way to combat it, I'll get that at the end. All right, so this is a comparison of employers who had hypothetical applications. Applications with resumes that were exactly the same, except they changed one thing, and that's good science. The only thing changed was the applicant had an African-sounding name versus a more Anglo-sounding name. It was Shaniqua instead of Sherry. And the results, unfortunately, did show a preference for Sherry. Now, there's still a whiff of that not being race-based, and I can give you a few reasons behind that sort of maybe decent discrimination. Maybe an employer perceives, especially a big one that can't really get down into detail when they do sorting, maybe the African name indicates a background from a bad school that brought less discipline. Corporate employment involves discipline. It involves adhering to the rules. And there are many urban schools where rules go by the wayside. Okay? Here's another. Maybe it's the child of parents who had strong Afrocentric values. For good or for bad, those values are not the same as American values. And parents will name their kids after a Senegal or Nigerian ancestor. You know, maybe the kid grows up with an adherence to, well, what would my ancestors do more so than what does this company want to do? It's not a great line of thinking, and I don't think any small company, which can really sift through resumes better, would do that. But I'm just saying that in large companies, and even in government service, which is very large, this discernment might not be based on race, but perceived quality of working together. So what does the African American with that traditional African sounding name do? I don't have a great prescription. To say I'm not Shaniqua, I'm Sherry on that resume might be helpful. I think if you suspect you're applying to an organization that can't get astute, or worse, that maybe has some racist employers, maybe that's the right prescription. Or maybe you stand up, okay? I'm Shaniqua and I'm proud, okay? I'm not going to change my name. I'm Quinisi and I'm not Kwan. By the way, Kwan sounds quite Asian, where there's actually a predisposition for very rigid, good corporate values, and it's why the discrimination is in favor, actually, of Asian-sounding names. So I don't have a pleasant solution. I do believe in fighting against this bad presumption that sweeps everyone under the same rug. Indeed, maybe the worst, the victims for whom I feel sorriest for, you carry your name from Nigeria, Senegal, Ghana, Chad. When you've arrived in the last decade, those are some of the most vibrant new Americans we have, steeped in really British and American values, and our favorite immigrants, at least mine. So let me apply it to my creed, Judaism, where if in certain firms that maybe need to have steadfast workers on Saturdays, they get a resume from Mordecai. Mordecai very likely is a religious Jew who's going to have a hard time working on Saturdays. And in the fall, with lots of weekday Jewish holidays, he's got to take off, make exceptions. Maybe the company doesn't want to deal with that. Maybe it's more likely to hire Michael instead of Mordecai. Might you change your name for that corporate work? I don't know. But I need you to recognize you're taking arrows because of it in some cases. I think the worst arrows are for the African Americans, though, for whom it's clear that there's still some bias. Now, one way to combat it, another hard move, though, change your neighborhood. Okay? If you are in an urban area that has not seen enough corporate success for its people, you're in the north end of Hartford, perhaps, move to Avon. Move to Glastonbury. White people there welcome you. Don't be afraid. You can still go back to your family and church and organizations on weekends back in the city. But maybe you start a new life for yourself and your kids. And here, the arrows are different. Because though I don't think you're going to get flying arrows in the north end of Hartford, your kids might get bad drugs. Okay? Bad environment. I've been asking good families to leave bad areas, Hartford in particular, for a long time. My mom's an example. Grew up in Hartford, North End, Weaver High graduate. But by the 1960s, Hartford was not nearly as good of a place. She got out. West Hartford was a beneficiary. She was a beneficiary by being in a better environment. If Hartford itself can't shape up fast enough, I'm not sure you want to put yourself and your kids through a lower level. And I do say lower because you have to be more concerned about crime. You have more concern about costs. There is fewer job opportunities. That's bad. It's heroic to stay. If you are staying, I want you to be working on changing it for the better. One reason I'm running for governor is to change cities in Connecticut and my birthplace, Hartford, in particular. I've got your backs. In one way or another, I hope you'll have mine.